Hello, everybody. Adrian Plass here,
Yes, and Bridget. Hello.
and this is number 297 in Sounding the Shadows. And someone made the comment that we're making rustling noises with our clothes, so we're going to try doing it naked.
Well, I think that was
naked today. No, we're not.
We are really not.
No, we're really
It was
not.
just to do with the microphone. We were holding it, so now we've
But there might
balanced it in
be a
front
bit
of us.
of rustly paper.
Oh, I suppose there might be.
Okay.
You know, it was so
Right.
nice. I am in the middle of what is turning into being a really bleak midwinter. It seems to be going on forever. We had some really lovely warm emails, didn't we, in response to last week's?
Actually, we have had a few recently, and we haven't really had the chance to read some of them. But one of them was from a friend of ours who we've known for some time, who actually has a very warm, lovely nature, doesn't he?
He does.
And
I think it was in connection with this whole idea of kindness and
that's right,
unexpected
yeah.
kindness.
Yeah.
And the fact that it can come from, you know, I think we've said it before, it's very easy to feel that Christians have the sort of, you know, they're the loving ones, the rest of the people are not quite so loving, and that is not our experience.
Is that easy to understand?
And it's all right, but it's certainly not the experience of this friend of ours.
No. Anyway, he said, Dear Adrian and Bridget, when you mentioned the people who did a good deed for you, I was reminded of my first ever work boss, Alan. When I started my first proper job as a technical writer in 1982, Alan was my boss. He was very helpful in many ways, helping me to learn what I needed to know and to cope in the world of work. It's his first ever job.
Yeah.
He became a true friend, and this is amazing, you know. We continued to meet regularly for dinner for the next 35 years
Yes.
until his death in 2022.
Yeah.
He was an atheist, and we often talked about what we did and didn't believe. And he actually quotes me here, which is interesting. He says, I joked that I would meet him in the everlasting arms, which is the name I gave to a pub where you might find Jesus in heaven. It so happened that I saw him on the day he died. I prayed for him, and I told him I would see him again. He nodded. I put a good word in for him in prayer, and I do hope he's okay. I somehow sense that he's okay. God bless. And then our friend's name.
It's one of those. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if the word is difficult, but when you know somebody really does not believe in the God you believe in, but they are intrinsically kind and good and have helped you a lot. We only have a few passages in the Bible to hang on to, don't we? But one of them is, you know, if I saw you naked, or if I came to you in prison, if I gave you a cup of water at a time when you needed it. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that those things in some way count, but that's not the same as earning, is it? It's just that
No,
somehow...
actually, I was talking to someone about that this week.
All right.
Sorry, no, what were you going to say?
No.
That the massive error that if you're good, you make it. It continues and is strengthened. Each generation seems to want the law rather than what you could describe as grace, which is, you know, when C.S. Lewis says in one poem, I left the forest where you are pursued in vain, often a mere white gleam, and looked for you in the appointed place where you pursue. The thing that's gone the wrong way round, I think, is that the whole strength and ingenuity of God has gone into making it possible to be with people he wants to be with. And there's a bit in the book of Peter which says, God is not willing that any should be lost.
I love that. God is not willing that any should be lost.
Yeah.
That means that if anything, it's not the same as earning, is it? It's that if anything, and anything that's kind and good and of good report, if you like, that goes that little bit beyond, is somehow not forgotten. That's the nearest I can come to it, really.
Well, who knows? I mean, there will be people listening to this for sure who will say, "Well, you know the mechanics of salvation as well as I do," and I know all about that. About you believe in Jesus, therefore, etc., etc. But what we have discovered is, I'm not arguing anything or on behalf of any view, just that it's much more complicated and much more simple than we think.
God is not willing that any should be lost.
No,
that's the whole
it's worth
reason
knowing
Jesus
that,
came.
yeah.
It's the whole, I don't
Yes.
know, it's very difficult, really. But I mean, you have an example that I've always loved. When I first met you, I met your friend Murray and his wife Vivian, and they were a huge part of your life. And they became a pretty big part of mine because they were larger than life.
They were, yeah.
But my favourite story is a very tiny story, and I mean Murray would definitely say he was an atheist. I mean he was not having any
I don't
truck
think he'd say he was a believer, no. But it's really about what kind of person he was, and it's also about how being kind is what it needs to be, and it doesn't conform to rules. And what it was
What it was.
the man next door who lived next door to Murray.
Oh yes, they lived in
Completely.
Murray and Vivian lived in a
yeah.
little cottage,
In the middle
right
of a
in the
wood,
middle
yeah.
of a wood.
Those
and
who've,
in the next part of the cottage,
Yeah,
lived
those
this
who've
man.
read The Shadow Doctor,
oh yeah,
the situation in which he lives with Jack is based on that cottage. Anyway, so yeah, the man next door knew that Murray was a very cultured individual. He knew about art, he knew about all sorts of things, and he had some wonderful pictures in his house. And the man next door was, in some ways, a simple soul. He hadn't had an education like Murray had, and he didn't really know anything about art, but he did listen to him talking about the pictures and about how interested he was in how people painted pictures. And one day he asked Murray, no, I'll start from a different point. Murray said to me one day, "Do you want to come next door with me? And I'll show you what my friend next door is doing." So
and I would imagine you thought it was going to be something quite dazzling, really.
Well, he didn't tell me what it was at that point.
Okay.
So we went round and we went in. Murray said, "Oh, I've come to see where you've got to," he said, "because I think you've just about got to the blue, haven't you?" And I thought, the blue? And the man said, "Yeah, I've just got to the blue, but I've got to be very careful with the blue because I don't want to run over the lines." And what he'd bought, the chap next door, was a painting by numbers kit. And as I learned later, he would ask Murray to come round every couple of days to see how far he'd got with his painting a numbers picture. And he was loving every moment of it. And it intrigued me about Murray being so knowledgeable about how he would be with that. So I didn't say anything, but Murray went over to the painting which was on the table, and he looked at it with great interest and said, "Yeah, I can see how you've got to be really careful there because there are a lot of very difficult curving lines, so you need to get the blue right inside. So what would be the next colour?" And the guy said, "Oh, it's the green next," with huge enthusiasm. And they talked about it for a while, and that was that. And then we went back to Murray's house. The thing that struck me about it all was that it wasn't a thing to laugh at or a thing to belittle. Murray we didn't go back and he said, "Do you see what he was doing? Painting by numbers."
Or in any way, from what you said, patronising.
Not in the
this man.
slightest, no.
He was entering into his world and taking what he saw as important seriously.
Right, yeah. And because he would think that Murray would fully understand his interest in art and what he was doing.
Yeah.
So it was very sweet in a way.
it's kind, but not patronising.
No.
And that seems to me to be very, very important. And I think most people listening would understand that, really. That sometimes the kind thing isn't to refuse too much, but just to take somebody's point of view seriously.
Well, we had a thing from somebody about the more ordinary kindnesses, didn't we? Thing about what had happened.
Well, yeah, this is also full of birds.
Yeah.
Because the other thing we were talking about last week was putting out feeders for the birds. And I knew that there would be people wanting to tell us about the birds in their gardens. There's one from a guy who lives in Walsall, that sort of area, talking about how when he was a lad, he would go out with his dad, and his dad would tell him all about the birds and the trees and on the long walks that they did, and it stayed in him.
Yeah.
And I mean, as I said, you know, our garden birds don't quite rate with the garden birds of Australia or I don't know, all sorts of countries really.
Yeah.
But they have their value and their beauty. And the letter that the email we had today said she puts out sunflower seeds, which seem to go down well. I love that. They go down pretty well, you know, like Yorkshire puddings or whatever. They're sort of they're the food of choice for a lot of birds. And she said, I see a lot of blue tits and grey tits and house sparrows and a pair of goldfinches, which made me very envious because we've done everything.
Yeah.
We've bought Niger seeds and goodness knows what to try and get the goldfinches come. A greater spotted woodpecker, that made me even more envious. But chaffinches, a coal tit and a robin. We have lots of various tits, don't we? We have the coal tits and we have a robin. And a nuthatch has been seen.
Oh, I love nuthatches, like little grey-blue slabs climbing up the wall. But she also told us about some of the gifts.
Well, I was just going to say that somebody else I was talking to just today was saying, and she always, you know, I work in this cafe as a volunteer, our church cafe, and we save the crusts for one of the people who works there who takes it for her birds. And she was saying about the magpies and how annoying it was because the magpies eat all the food. I haven't quite noticed that, but we have a pair of magpies, and they made a nest last year, and it was a shocking nest. Do you remember?
Yeah.
The male, he would turn up with this ridiculously long piece of wood, a bit of a branch, and we pictured Mrs. Magpie saying, what on earth do you think I'm going to do with that? But it's the messiest nest.
They do always talk about how birds make exquisite nests.
You know, not these magpies. Don't. And there they are again. And I saw him today carrying another ridiculously long twig that wouldn't fit into anything or be anything. But I think the thing about the magpies in our garden is, yes, when they come, they do frighten the little birds, but not very much. Because the little birds just go and sit in a nearby tree and wait. And as soon as he's gone, back they all are.
Well, they're all very wary.
They're
we
wary,
had another thing about actual gifts, didn't we? It was such a joyful thing.
Yeah, it was. So it was the other part of this letter in which this person who we know does struggle sometimes and really values her friends of various sorts. But this was great. This was a friend who braved the flooded roads. And can I just say to anybody who doesn't live in this country, flooded roads are part of daily life at the moment.
I remember when there weren't flooded roads.
You have to go quite a long way back. Anyway, she was picked up and taken to St Albans and to a large garden centre, even though it was bucketing down with rain. And it sounded absolutely a lovely, lovely day. It seemed to involve several cafes, which is my idea of a great day out. And then, before she'd left, another friend had driven through the rain to bring her a large sponge cake with fresh cream and raspberries. It's so nice.
Wonderful.
It's so nice to think of these two friends thinking, what will she like the most? And one was to go to St Albans, to the garden centre, and then into the town to a building that was a courthouse and is now a museum with a very nice cafe. I don't know, there's something about this.
But going back to what you said about, or we talked about Murray and having the right response to things. I mean,
yes, that can be
actually
challenging.
giving, those are clear gifts for someone who likes those things. But it's not always that straightforward, is it?
I don't think it is, and again, I'm sure that people who are listening will have their own stories of a time when the kind thing was to do nothing at all. And if you remember, we had my mum come and live with us for the last 2 or 3 months of her life, and she was such a stoic person, such a brave person, and she was being brave all day, and obviously I was constantly involved with her and loving her in every way I possibly could. But at night, we went to bed upstairs and she had a hospital bed downstairs, and we had an intercom in case she needed anything so we could hear her. And most nights, for about a half an hour, we could hear her crying. Now, everything in me wanted to go down and cuddle her.
But not everything.
But there was one bit of me that I knew this was her right. Her right to hold it all together during the day, and her right to weep a little bit at night so that she could start again the next day. It was one of the hardest, if you like to talk about kindness, I found that so hard. And every morning I would go down and I would look through the curtains that we'd rigged up over the door, because it was a glass door, and she looked so frail, and I would go in and I'd say, would you like a cup of tea? And every morning she said, oh, I would love a cup of tea. And her day had begun. And she had no idea that we'd heard her crying, and that was her right.
So the kindest thing was that, to allow that grief about the future.
I think so, and the cost of that for me was greater than most kindnesses that I could possibly offer her or anybody else, really. But I knew, and you knew, that it was right for her.
Of course it was right, yeah.
Gosh, it brings back a pretty awful memory, really. But it's an important one, isn't it? That sometimes, it's just
it's got to be
understanding
right.
somebody's world, understanding where they come from, understanding what they actually want. And obviously our friend who got the cake with the strawberries and a trip to St Albans was exactly what she wanted and needed for that day. But for my mum, the exact thing she needed and wanted was to be in charge of herself, to have a little bit
One of the things that drove me mad when I've talked about giving up smoking before, what drove me mad when I wanted to stop smoking was that you'd hear stories from people in various churches saying, oh yes, I prayed and it all happened and I stopped, and just like that. And others who didn't. Well, I don't know if it was or it wasn't.
No, I'm sure for some people it was.
Well, it was what was. I don't know what the difference is, but I do know that I'm immensely glad that I couldn't give it up in retrospect, because it took me 9 months of a little hell to get to the point where I suddenly woke up one morning and thought, I don't need a cigarette. And I was so thrilled with this. And I think there was something to do with my self-esteem, that I had reached a point where I had done it, and I really needed that. So it is horses for courses, isn't it? And because people worry about, especially in the religious world, that there are set ways to do things, it can be very easy to dole out or offer things that are actually not suited to the situation somebody's in.
Yeah, and so I mean, if we truly believe that God entered our world, He entered our world to understand us, and there will be many, many times that we know nothing about, in those years in which Jesus was with us. I know that. It says so. It says there are many. Doesn't John say there are a load of
Says it would have
stories?
filled too many books to
Filled
write,
too many
something like
books.
that. Yeah.
But you find this individual relationship with Martha, with Mary, with Peter, with John.
Yeah.
You know, with that it was an understanding of their world
Yeah.
and what they needed to learn in it, but also what giving them an opportunity to give. And one of the things that we haven't really got time now to explore again, but of the moments of kindness where he allowed people to show kindness to him.
Yeah.
And I know one of your favourites is the woman with the ointment.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Doing something really nice.
Just doing something really nice.
Yeah.
And not being mocked, you know, and being
Yeah.
mocked for it. But it was the right thing at the right time to the right person by the right person.
Yeah.
And my instinct is that this was a person who often fell flat on her face.
May well
Because
have been,
people
yeah.
who
Yeah.
are extravagant like that are often people who mess up in many ways.
Yeah.
But at that moment, at that time, it was the right thing. And on those nights, lying in bed listening to my mum, it was the right thing. I've never had any doubt about that.
It still kind of hurts you, though,
Oh,
doesn't
it was
it?
awful. Of course
To
it was
think
awful.
about that.
Because
yeah.
you want to take away the pain.
Yeah.
And I think taking away people's struggle, trying to make it all right for people can sometimes not be the right
What's that?
thing.
Well, I think we quoted a while ago that little verse, but I think it was a Victorian verse from how's it go?
Sorry, I don't know.
From something to something they hurry me to stifle my regret. And when they win a smile from me, they think that I forget. And that instinct to smother grief, to
see somebody you love smile.
yeah, but I was talking this week about a little girl we knew whose mum died.
Oh,
And
yes.
she came to see me one day, and she said, she was still very young. She said, no one wants to talk about mummy.
Yeah.
And she so needed to. And she talked about her then, not with tears, but about mummy, who she loved and she missed, and she needed to do it. And that other people, I think, would have thought we're being kind.
Yeah,
and
we're trying to be kind, trying to take away the pain.
It's not easy.
Well, we'd love to hear from you. I think
Yes.
we've only just begun.
Yeah, tell us about some of the gross mistakes you made.
Oh, no.
No.
Although that
but-
would be fine.
Yes, of course. Anyway, whatever you like. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.